I read an email the other day where someone wrote, "You passed with flying colors." And I didn't think much about it until yesterday. We have all these sayings that are ingrained within us, like the tables have turned, which we know is Jesus flipping the tables of the money changers at the temple, or when pigs fly, which refers to Jesus casting the unclean spirits into the pigs, which went off a cliff. In total was about 2,000 pigs. I like to think of that as the 2,000 years from Jesus' first coming to his second coming, where these unclean spirits are still roaming, but when he returns, that's it. Or to go down in flames, which will be the earth judged by fire. So, with all these little idioms, where does the idiom "you've passed with flying colors" come from? If you do an internet search for some of these, the internet will tell you that the tables have turned comes from the turning of board games. When pigs fly comes from the adventures in Wonderland and something someone said in 17th century Scotland. And while those things may be true, I'm searching for the origin. And as far as I can tell, at least for these idioms, the origin is in the Bible. So when I read that email and saw "you pass with flying colors," yesterday it made me think of a dream that I had about flying colors because of what I'm going to discuss in this dream about Hanukkah, Christmas, tribulation, and manna. They were the exact same colors. And I'm not quite ready to cover that dream of the flying colors yet, but I wanted to mention it because the colors that I saw were the same. And I wrote this down when I had the dream I'm going to discuss about Hanukkah, Manna, Christmas, tribulation back in 2023. So Joseph, we know, wore a coat of many colors, and he had this coat as he was being thrown into a pit by his own brothers. And he was then tested in Egypt, and he also then tested his brothers. Did Joseph and his brothers pass the tests with flying colors? I'd like to think this is where this saying comes from, but it may just extend to believers in the end times too. Those who pass, who overcome. Will we actually see flying colors like a rainbow? Perhaps we will when the Lord comes to gather his elect. And I have seen this bright, bright light on 3 occasions in 3 dreams. We know that white light is all colors combined. And if you take a color wheel and spin it really fast, it becomes white. Although all of that is for another video's discussion, I will tell you that in this dream, the rainbow lights had the ability to, I called them rainbow lights, and they had the ability to transport you from one place to another. In particular, in this dream, they transported me to the side of a mountain that led to an underground facility. I was being shown what was taking place there. Again, all for another video. But I wonder, were these rainbow lights angels or God himself, the hand of God himself? I don't know, and I wasn't shown that in this dream, but they were extremely vivid. And although I called them rainbow lights, I specifically remember a blue, pinkish, and yellow hue standing out. Basically primary colors, except the red was a beautiful, vivid pink color, and the blue was more sky blue than a royal blue or a dark blue. These are, like I said, the exact same colors that I saw in this Christmas, Hanukkah, Manna tribulation dream. Yet they were associated specifically with Hanukkah candles, light. And they looked, although they reminded me and looked more like the colors of like those typical birthday candles. So I'll put that on the screen. So I want to go over this dream I had 2 years ago in 2023, and also what I wrote about it when I woke up, because um, what I wrote about was about the cube that I see people are talking about right now. Now, I didn't see this cube in the dream, but I wrote about it the next morning when I woke up. I don't know why I thought about it. The way that the way the Lord works is just amazing, and I had no clue 2 years later that this would be kind of a topic. Um, but let me go over this dream. It was a dream that I had on the morning of 12/16/2023, December 16th, 2023. And it went as follows. I was shopping with someone whose name literally means iron. So I will refer to them as iron as I discuss this dream. As a side note, I believe when you dream of someone, their name and or their character has significant meaning in the dream. But I was shopping with Iron and we sat down at a table to eat. There was both eating and crafting going on at the table that we sat down. And by crafting, I mean like Hobby Lobby type of crafting, building something. And when a lady approached, we were just sitting there, and a lady approached Iron and I and mentioned something about manna and then asked if we had any. I just looked at her, didn't say anything, and I think she gauged my apprehension and asked me, "Do you even know what manna is?" And I scoffed. Do I even know what manna is? Of course I do. But in this dream, I thought manna was Hanukkah candles. The scene then changed, and we were at a place on the water. I knew this place was my home, although I didn't recognize it, but I didn't feel like it was my home. So members of my immediate family lived there too, and I noted in this dream that my room was the smallest room. But I made a comment about it in the dream, but in the dream I humbled myself and was like, even though it's the smallest room, it's still very nice. And it had beautiful wood paneling in the bathroom, like the bottom half of the wall had like an oak wainscoting, if you will, oak paneling. And Iron wasn't at this house at this time. This house was near the ocean, and I did, like I said, keep thinking it wasn't my home. Like it was my home, but it wasn't my home. And as I was in the bathroom looking at this oak wainscoting, I noticed out the window that the ocean water was really hitting hard against the wall of the house. I thought to myself, I don't know if this wall is strong enough for this, but I assumed it was because it's like I knew this has happened before, meaning the water has happened to beat against the wall of the house in the past. There was a deck with a railing, and I somehow knew the railing was safe to be on one side, but if you went to the other side of the railing, it was no longer safe. And there were two women. One had a baby in her arms. The one woman remained on the deck, and the other stepped off of it with the baby. The waves started coming again, and I began yelling at her to come back. I was really worried about this baby and that she was going to hurt the baby and herself. I went out on the deck, and a wave came, and I was then in the water, and my phone got wet. I recall it's still working, but doing like weird things at this point, weird signals popping up and characters and stuff. And directly after this, I woke up out of the dream thinking I needed to dry my phone with a blow dryer, and I realized it was just a dream and that my phone my phone didn't actually get wet. So I went back to sleep and went right back into this same dream. And I want to pause for a minute because I just want to say that from experience, when my phone does weird things in dreams, like the serpent dream I mentioned in part 3 of the Lord Has Eyes on You series, it usually means a signaling or fervent communication about something important, communication across many people, maybe even the earth. So unpause. So I go right back into the dream, but this time I'm back at my own house, my real house. And Iron was with me again, and we got back from shopping and went inside. And in my dream, I started blow drying my phone because it was wet. I was just at my other house that wasn't my house. The wave came, I was underwater, and then I'm back at my actual house that I know is my house. And I'm blow drying my phone, And I knew in the dream, I remember taking it apart and blow drying all of the pieces and then having to put it back together. And Iron started working on building Christmas crafts, another reference to crafting, creating something. And we were in my kitchen. And at that point, I recall looking at a random sign in my kitchen that looked like a weather vane. It had, like, the four sides of a weather vane, but instead of the direction, the I guess they're post directionals, it had four Christmas ornaments on it, but there was something off about it, and I knew that the ornaments needed to be rearranged. There were children and other adults there, and it was like we were having a holiday party, holiday crafting party, I guess. Um, One of the kids asked me if I had, came up to me and asked me if I had manna, and I said I didn't. At this point in my dream, I recalled I left it somewhere, and I specifically was trying to remember where I left it. The colors of what I referred to as manna, which in my dream again, I thought they were Hanukkah candles, were the vivid pink, blue, and yellow colors. I couldn't remember where I left the manna, the Hanukkah candles, and I asked someone at the party whose name I knew is Leah, which of course is very biblical and it means delicate or weary, if she had any manna, and she very reluctantly said yes. I then had a conversation with Iron about the days that there would be no work over the holiday. And then after that, the entire scene changed. I was in a car driving down a major highway. Everything looked so eerie, dystopian. I could see there were helicopters hovering every 300 to 500 feet or so. There were so many, but they didn't look like normal helicopters. They looked like high tech hovercraft, the size of helicopters, but like a little bit bigger than a helicopter. In the stream, I knew they were there to monitor and track people, but it's like I knew that in the dream, but I didn't want to believe that it was happening. In the dream, I didn't want to believe that it was happening, and I didn't want to believe what they were doing. I was dumbfounded, like it was so eerie and dystopian. But as I was driving, looking at these craft in the sky, I all of a sudden saw a stroller roll out into the middle of the highway with a baby in it. And I immediately stopped the car on the side of the road, grabbed the stroller so the baby wouldn't get hurt, and there was a family in the median strip close by. I asked them if it was their baby, and a woman said no, but I can take it with us to figure out where it belongs. She was with about five other people. So just as she was getting into the car with the baby, a van pulls up with about five other people, and a woman hops out of the car and immediately recognizes the baby and says out loud, I have to talk to it like it's an adult sometimes. She was referring to the baby. Now, this baby was only about 9 months old, and it had blondish hair, big blue eyes. Don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but I do remember seeing it because when I looked at the features, as I looked closer at this baby, I recognized it like I'd seen it before. Pausing again because perhaps this is the baby, same baby where the woman jumped into the water. I don't know, but I recognize this baby. And I realized that the woman said what the woman had said, like she had to talk to it like it's an adult sometimes, and her whole demeanor was just off. I recognized that, and I got a vibe. And but I knew she knew that baby, and I knew it too. So I immediately knew something was off with their whole story, and it was a deception. So pausing again, as I believe the stuff with the phone, the communication going out, the phone getting wet, and me knowing that there was something off with the whole story of whatever event caused these spying hovercraft to be everywhere, you know, what these people were saying about the baby, all of it deception. So I thought either they don't know the baby but wanted it, or they knew the baby and didn't really care about it, or the baby wasn't really a baby at all and was something else altogether. They knew it but wanted me to stop and save it because the stroller went out into the highway. Either way, I kept waiting as like I was waiting for the police or one of those hovercraft to come down at this point and figure this situation out. Why are there people on the side of the highway here and with a baby in a stroller? And but they never came. And in my dream, it made me start to wonder if there was police in them at all, or were they AI monitors? So, after some hesitation about who the baby belonged to, I walked back to my car on the side of the highway and looked out at the road to figure out what the correct direction was to go. I went left, but realized it was the wrong way when I saw cars coming head on. So, I had to do a full circle to go to the correct direction. To the right, and as soon as I went the correct direction, my alarm went off. End of dream. So when I awoke after this dream, I wrote some other things down. I don't know why I wrote what I wrote, but I find it very interesting that this stuff is being discussed right now. And I just want to read to you what I wrote. I pretended to know what manna was, and I really didn't in the dream I didn't. I referenced it as blue, pink, and yellow Hanukkah candles. So when I woke up, I said, that's not manna. Manna is bread from heaven. I also want to document to remember that in my dream with the rainbow lights, the lights were more pink, blue, and yellow. Lastly, in the movie Avatar, there is this substance not found on Earth called unobtainium. Could this be unobtainium like the manna that fell from heaven? All TV shows that point to this stuff show it as a black rock, black cube, perhaps. Melted down, is this the black goo? What does this black goo do? I followed up with this a bit later with the words um, manna. Now that I have read more into it, manna is definitely the bread of life, the knowledge of the living God. End of what I wrote. Now, you have to remember, I was a little over a year into my walk with the Lord, trying to figure out this world now that I understood that things weren't what I thought they were before. Everything at this point had changed. I was receiving so many dreams, information, just my whole world was changed. Salvation does, when you walk with the Lord and you walk in the spirit of truth, all truth begins to be revealed to you, and you have a lot of questions. And I had a lot of questions, so I didn't know at the time as much as I do now, even 2 years later. We're always in a path of learning, and there's still so much I don't know, but that's why it's a walk. He's holding my hand through it. And um, dreams that I had years ago, many of these dreams are starting to make so much more sense. And I just found it interesting that I mentioned the black cube and the black rock, possibly even the mountain, reference to the mountain. Um, but I just thought it was very interesting. And I wanted to mention that because I did write it down when I woke up from that specific dream. So now there was a theme of two in this dream, kind of like my first two moon dream. I was asked if I had manna twice, but then I asked somebody, so three times manna came up, but twice I was asked if I had it. But thought they were Hanukkah candles twice. And once I said I had it, and the other I said I lost it. The first time I said I had it, I don't know if I really had. I don't think I really had it. Um, there was crafting that occurred twice in the dream. Um, there, the dream was literally in two parts. I woke up in between. There were two instances of a baby. There were two women in these two instances with this baby in their hands. There were two cars that pulled up, both with five people and then five people. There were two homes, one home that was mine, but it wasn't mine really, and one home that I knew was mine, that was the correct home. Two directions I could have taken on a dystopian highway. Took the wrong one at first, but then went the right way. Four total ornaments, two and two. that were out of order and needed to be rearranged on a weather vane type sign, possibly representing northeast, southwest. But they were in the wrong order or direction and needed to be rearranged. Could also be reference to the four corners of the earth. There are also four winds. I talk about these four winds in judgment in part 2 of The Lord Has Eyes on You. So, again, a little over a year before I had the two moons dream, there was a theme of two I had in this dream. Yesterday was a very interesting day. I was listening to a video from Brother George, and he mentions this other brother's channel called New Moon Rapture. And I must admit, I binged like 10 of his videos. Everything that I've been shown or have began to understand over the last 3 years, he talks about and has been talking about for years. So, most importantly, the number 45. It is literally shorthand for 2025, and that's confirmed in the Lord's word, um, confirmed by four other brothers and sisters as well, like all getting this information just in the last couple of years. So the two moons dream, the dream where the moon looked like a pie or a clock with a piece missing at the 4 and the 5 hand. 4 is the number meaning door, and 5 is grace. Broken down, this meant the door to grace 2025. So the videos that I'm going to be posting soon will be a series of likely 3 parts. I'm going to have to break, it's a lot of information. And I'm going to be talking about the time shift and why this theme of two keeps occurring. Yes, there is a time reset and it's biblical, and the transgressors know, and they're trying to do their own reset. It's why things occurred the way they did in 2019, 2020. What happened in 2001, the two becoming one. It's they're working toward their own reset. It's all ordained and part of the delay or the tarrying at the end. And I believe this reset has to do with the number 22 and why everyone keeps seeing the number 22, 22, or 222. I'm also going to be covering a bunch of stuff in the sky that I've seen in dreams, but also what other people are seeing in the physical. And just a lot of the dreams that I've had years ago, I didn't understand when I had them, but the Lord's just pouring out understanding, and I get what they mean so much clearer now than when I first had them. And these videos, they are taking some time, but I am feeling an urgency to get them out, so I'm working diligently. And just as another side note, yesterday I guess we inspired my other neighbor to remove a dead tree in their yard, and I heard the chainsaw for hours, but at one point I got the urge to just go out and see the progress. And as soon as I stepped outside, not even 2 minutes later, I witnessed the large portion of this tree fall. Now, it wasn't as big as the one that came down in my parents' yard, but the fact that this is now 3 yards right in a row within 3 months, and I got the urge to step outside right as this tree was falling. God is just so amazing. And Brother George always says the Lord works in threes. And yes, I've witnessed that. So at some point, hopefully soon, I'm expecting a third two moon dream. And he's worked in threes with me before, so I'll be praying for that. In order to understand what I'm referring to, you really have to go back and watch the little series I did, The Lord Has Eyes on You. And with that, I mentioned in part 1 about the judgment dream I had on 8/8/2024, and how the Lord said the following when I asked him why he had so many children. He said, "You are all unique. I also saw the uniqueness of each believer who is watching at this time, waiting with anticipation for his return in the dream I had of the eclipse and 4 moons, and then a fifth moon appear." Another reference to the 45, which I posted in part 2 of the Lord Has Eyes on You series. I just want to show you how he literally encoded what he told me after he said you are all unique. that he had eyes on me. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me he was referring to. It was the small group that stayed around him after the crowd dissipated. The Strong's number for "you are all unique" is 1301, which means to keep free, treasured, to watch thoroughly, to observe strictly. And remember what I said he told me next after he said, "You are all unique." He said, "I have eyes on you to see what you will do next." It's like he doubled down and coded that he had eyes on us in his own words. "You are all unique." And he knew I would understand what this meant. This, "you are all unique." And apparently, so does this other brother from New Moon Rapture, because he sums it up perfectly. And I just want to play this for you too.
We are close. We are in the month. We are in the month. We are that generation that the time is going to be and is like no other time before this, no other time after this. I mean, we are that generation. We are that peculiar people, that peculiar generation that we are. I mean, I'm just going to say, we are unique. Those of us that are awake, that know what's going on, that are aware of this, that can see this, we are a peculiar, unique people that God knows about, that God has chosen for us to be here clearly because He has ordained all this, right? And it is like nothing else. And when you're awake and you can see all these things, and people around you do not live like this is that time. See, because that's the thing, they're not living like it's that time. It's like this. There's two people, and they're both sleeping, and one knows that it's 6:30 and they got to be to work at 7, so the one is getting ready and is ready to go to be at work at 7. The other one is still asleep, fast asleep, doesn't know the time, doesn't care about the time, gonna sleep through the whole thing. That's what's going on. Just like the wise virgins and the unwise virgins, there was 10 virgins, they were all looking for Jesus. Okay, 5 of them are ready, 5 of them weren't. 5 of the wise virgins had the oil in their lamps and they went in when the door opened, and 5 of them did not.
I thought it would be appropriate to end this video, a video of yet another video with the theme of 2 for the season we are in, with 1 Corinthians 15:40 through 15:47, as there is a theme of 2 in these verses. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body, and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul, the last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven.